Are you a newcomer or international student hoping to immigrate to Canada? Well, big changes are coming to Canada's immigration system, and trust me, you need to know about them. Canada has just announced significant cuts to its immigration targets for 2025, specifically slashing the number of spots available through the Provincial Nominee Program. Now, I know that sounds daunting, but it doesn't mean your dreams of moving to Canada are over. In fact, with the right strategy, you can still make it. Stick around to learn what this cut means, how they are going to impact different provinces, and most importantly, how you can still get ahead in the race for immigration. In today's video, we are going to dive deep into 1. Why the Canadian government is cutting immigration targets, what's behind their decision. Secondly, how these cuts will impact the Provincial Nominee Program, that's the PNP, especially in provinces like Manitoba, Ontario, and British Columbia, because I know that's where most people at least make a decision to head to. Then we also look at some 10 strategies you can use to boost your chances of securing PNP nomination despite these changes. This video is for newcomers and international students who are worried about their immigration future but still want to find a way to stay in Canada. Whether you're already here on a work permit or you are planning your move, we've got some practical examples and strategies to help you stay on track. So firstly, why these immigration cuts? Let's start by addressing the big question. Why has Canada reduced its immigration targets for 2025? Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Immigration Minister Mark Miller recently announced a sharp reduction in the number of newcomers, particularly through the Provincial Nominee Program. To put things in perspective, the number of immigrants allowed through the PNP will be slashed from 120,000 to just 55,000, less than half of what was originally planned for 2025. Why? According to the federal government, provinces need to provide more comprehensive data on their labor market needs to justify the number of immigrants they want. Basically, the provinces will have to get more selective and targeted with their nominations. This decision is part of a broader federal push to ensure immigration aligns closely with actual job vacancies across the provinces. But here is the thing, it's not all bad news. These cuts means that provinces will focus even more on high demand occupations, making it easier for people with the right skills to stand out. So, impact on key provinces. Now, how will these cuts affect individual provinces like Manitoba, Ontario, and British Columbia? Let's break it down. First, Manitoba, which is where personally I am. Manitoba has been heavily reliant on the Provincial Nominee Program. In 2023, a whopping 62% of its immigrants, that's about 15,495 people, came through the PNP to Manitoba. So with these new cuts, that number will drop drastically. This could lead to increased competition for PNP slots in Manitoba, especially for those with occupations like truck driving and healthcare that the province needs the most. Is going to get very competitive because they will get very selective on who they at least issue nomination to with those big cuts in the numbers. So if you have plans of possibly using the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program, my advice is this might be the time for you to study the in-demand jobs that they are focusing on and try as much as possible to align your career goals with those ones. That way, your job that you are working will be in demand and you might get a high chance of getting selected because they might be looking at some specific job to certify labor shortage in the province. If you are currently a student, this will help you make a decision on the type of jobs that you need to focus on and not just be chasing after the paper. At least you will find yourself in jobs that you know can land you nomination post-graduation. Number 2, we have Ontario. Ontario, on the other hand, is a bit different. While it welcomed 206,815 newcomers in 2023, only 10% came through their PMP program. Most immigrants to Ontario come through the federal programs, so the impact of PMP cuts will be less severe on them. However, if you are planning on moving to Ontario, you should expect that the province may prioritize sectors like healthcare, tech, and engineering when it comes to their PMP program, because about 10% of people who are coming there are coming through their PMP program. Most people are coming through the federal programs where they have the option to settle anywhere, but they choose to settle in Ontario. So if you want to focus on the Ontario PMP program, then try and focus on the sectors that they are prioritizing. That's the healthcare, tech, and engineering fields, where the province has a significant labor gap that they might be trying to fill, because they are going to be strategic on who they issue the nomination to help them fill those significant labor gaps that they have in the province. Then thirdly, I have British Columbia. BC, similar to Ontario, has diverse immigration system. But what makes BC stands out is its focus on industries like healthcare and childcare. So while the number of PMP spots may shrink, if you are a childcare provider or a healthcare worker, your chances remain strong as BC will continue prioritizing these key sectors. So the PMP changes, what they mean to you. PMP changes, what they mean for you. So what do these cuts really mean for you as someone planning to immigrate through the PMP program? In a nutshell, it means fewer opportunities and more competition, and greater focus on provinces with high labor demand. Provinces will now be much more selective in who they nominate, which means you need to get strategic and focus on aligning your profile with these priorities. I don't lose hope. The PMP will still be an essential pathway, especially if you target the right provinces and professions. Remember, many provinces like Manitoba still rely heavily on the PMP to fill their labor needs, so it's not going anywhere. But all you need to do is be strategic and selective on which province that you decide to target. If you are coming in now as a student, or you are now making your decision on which school to at least attend, this might be the time to look ahead, look beyond just studying, and see where you want to settle. Beyond just studying, which province is going to be at least more favorable to you post-graduation when it comes to Provincial Nominee Program, so that it can be easier for you to settle post-graduation. Most of us who studied in Manitoba were able to take advantage of the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program, which allowed us to get our permanent residency without having to go through federal, where it was much more competitive. Now let's get into the practical stuff. How can you boost your chances of securing a PMP nomination despite these cuts? Here are 10 key strategies that will make all the difference for you. Number one, I would say research provincial needs. Start by researching which provinces have the highest demand for your occupation. For example, if you are a healthcare worker, BC might be your best bet. On the other hand, if you are in construction or trucking, Manitoba could be your ideal place to maybe look at. Every single province has different needs, so you need to find out which province at least is looking for your skill sets and target them accordingly. There are some provinces where your skill sets might be in surplus, which means it's going to be competitive for you. But for other provinces, your skill sets might be in demand, which means it will be easier for them to nominate you and help you to get your permanent residency. Secondly, enhance your language skill. Your language proficiency plays a huge role in your applications. For all the PMP programs, there is a minimum requirement when it comes to the language proficiency. So make sure you are taking English tests like the IELTS or even the CELPIP. Or sometimes you can even take the French test like the TEF, because having that second language might make a difference. A higher score can make a difference for you. And because most of these provinces might be looking for people who can speak French, and because majority of the applicants might not be speaking French, if you are able to prove some French proficiency, it might be able to help you to stand out in the crowd. Many provinces like Quebec and Ontario prioritize candidates with stronger language skills. But places like Manitoba, I think the minimum language proficiency now is even 5 for some of the occupations that they are looking at. So depending on where you find yourself, it might be time for you to enhance your language skills so that you can stand out of the pool. Number 3, I would say secure a job offer. Getting a job offer in a province like Saskatchewan or Alberta can fast track your PNP nomination. These provinces prioritize applicants who have already secured employment in high demand sectors. Even in Manitoba, it's the same, where they try to prioritize people who have already secured employment in high demand sectors, because they know if you've already secured employment, it means you are employable. And if it's in high demand sector, they wouldn't want those employers to lose their staff. So they will prioritize these people and give them permanent residency just to encourage them to stay. Number 4, gain Canadian experience. If you are already in Canada, make the most of your time here. Canada work or study experience is a big plus for most PNP streams. Even in the stream, they try to prioritize people who have Canadian experience or study experience in that particular province. Provinces like Ontario and BC highly value local experience. So whilst you are studying, if possible, try as much as possible to gain some Canadian work experience whilst you are still in school. That way, when you graduate, those experiences might at least count towards the points that you might get when it comes to your score in the PNP pool that you find yourself in. Number 5, I would say tailor your profile. Customize your application to fit a province's specific criteria. No two provinces are the same. For example, if you are applying to Ontario's tech focus streams, highlight your skills in tech and data analysis, because even though you might have that skill set, you need to make it stand out so that they will see it in the pool. Because one thing I'm realizing, that a lot of people might have multiple skill sets or multiple degrees. Make sure you are tailoring your profile based on the one that you are applying to. If your focus is the tech stream, make sure that your profile shows that you have those tech skill sets. If you have some business background and as a result the stream that you are targeting is looking for business skill sets, make sure that one also shows up on your profile, because sometimes they might ask you to specify which no code or which skill sets that you want to be considered on. Number 6, I'll say monitor the PNP draws. Keep track of when provinces are holding PNP draws. Some draws might focus on healthcare professionals, others on tech, and even transportation jobs. Apply when your occupation is in demand. And my advice to most people who I speak to is, make sure at least you are in the pool, because you might not know when they are targeting your profession. They say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It won't cost you anything to at least do the expression of interest. So make sure you do your expression of interest and enter the pool. That way, when it's time for them to target your occupation, you might be able to get a nomination to apply for your permanent residency. Number 7, I would say consider rural communities. Many provinces have rural immigration streams to attract newcomers to less populated areas. Think of places like Northern Ontario or even rural Manitoba. These programs often have less competition. Personally, I was surprised when I decided to drive out of Winnipeg, where I stay, and roam around Manitoba. I drove for 3 hours and I was still within Manitoba. I had not even gotten anywhere. So you can just imagine, the place is so big and there are a lot of smaller rural communities, and they are looking for people to immigrate to these communities, because most people who who are moving to the provinces want to stay in the big cities. So sometimes it will be good for you to consider those rural communities because those might be your best bet. We know stories of people who, for instance, even in Manitoba, they decided to move just a few hours out of Winnipeg, and as a result, that fast-tracked the application and helped them secure the permanent residency because the community decided to sponsor them when it came to even the MPMP pool because they need people to settle in these areas with the right skill sets. Number 8, I would say build connections in provinces. Having family or friends in a specific province can improve your chances. For example, Saskatchewan's PMP gives extra points if you have family there. And I know even in Manitoba, if you have friends or family in the province, it goes a long way to show that you have ties to the province, and sometimes they give you points for that. So it will be good to build connections in the provinces that you are trying to target. That way you can tell them that, oh, I know somebody there, because they know if you have ties in the province or if you know people there, the high chance of you staying when you move there is very high. So if you have connections, make them count. It might be time to make the right connections in the provinces that you are targeting. Number 9, get your credentials assessed early. You'll be surprised how many people are saying that they want to at least enter the pool, but they haven't even assessed their credentials yet. I know people who get nomination and now they'll be running around trying to get their credentials assessed because they haven't done that already. Make sure your foreign education and work credentials are recognized in Canada by getting the Educational Credential Assessment, that's the ECA. This ensures that you are qualified for the roles in the target province, because if they nominate you, they will check to make sure that the information that you provided are valid. If you told them that you had a master's, you need to show that your master's is actually assessed and validated. If you told them that you have these skill sets from back home, you need to have the right documentation to prove that you have the skill sets, because they wouldn't want a case where you'll be lying on application and they'll be issuing the nomination to you. So make sure you have your credentials assessed, because with the focus on the in-country people, you never know where another program might pop up. Like 2021, when the TL to PR pathway popped up and people were running around because they were not ready. Number 10, I would say stay flexible. Finally, be more open to moving to multiple provinces. You might qualify for more than one PMP stream, so don't put all your eggs in one basket. Explore options across provinces to maximize your chances. Don't sit there and focus that, oh, I'm just going to focus on one province. We know people who focus on multiple provinces and they got multiple nominations and they chose the one that suited their case. Personally, I know somebody in Manitoba who even before graduating, he decided that, oh, I'm going to focus on different provinces, and he got nomination from Ontario, whilst there are people in Ontario who are in the pool and they haven't even been nominated yet. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. So let me give you a couple of practical examples. If you are a software engineer, you might think Toronto is your only option. But did you know that British Columbia also has strong demand for tech workers? With fewer PMP spots in Ontario, BC could be your best bet or your best chance to secure permanent residency. Or even take the example of truck drivers. Manitoba has been heavily dependent on its PMP for skilled workers in this field. So even with cuts, it remains a viable destination. By aligning your profile with provincial labor needs, you can still stand out in the pool despite the increased immigration. By aligning your profile with provincial needs, you can still stand out in the pool despite the increased competition. So to wrap it all up, yes, Canada immigration cuts for 2025 are going to make the process more competitive, but they don't mean the door is closed. By focusing on high demand occupations enhancing your profile, and strategically applying to the right provinces, you can still secure your spot in Canada. Now, if you are feeling uncertain or want a personalized advice, I always say it would be good to talk to an immigration consultant or an immigration lawyer who can guide you when it comes to some of these things. Not everybody has the ability to at least go and study for themselves and understand what is changing and how it aligns with their profile. But if you want to have a one-on-one conversation with me personally, disclaimer, I'm not an immigration consultant, neither am I an immigration lawyer. You just want to have a one-on-one conversation and talk about life in Canada and learn from my experience. I always say I leave a link to my calendar in the description area where you can click on and book a time in my calendar for us to have a tete-a-tete and learn from each other. Always open to share my experiences for you to learn from it. Hopefully, I might be able to help one way or the other. I'm here to guide you every step of the way. So don't wait. Let's chat and get you closer to your Canadian dream. Until the next video, cheers. But don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that I don't miss any video from me. Until then, cheers.